Greetings, Stephen Cook here. This is a rather fantastic fantasy image of a Lamassu, an ancient, protective, supernatural being that we know from Akkadian literature. The Lamassu has the head of a human, wings, and body of a bull. They are composite creatures, cherubim-like, bovine creatures that protect the holy. Let's take a look at a real one, stepping inside briefly the British Museum, and we'll begin to use Lamassu and related figures, archaeology from the ancient Near East, to introduce three themes from Isaiah. Welcome to the British Museum in London. Behind me we have some actual Lamassu. These are statues of composite mythological creatures. They are bovine in nature, usually with the body of a bull, but sometimes a lion. They are winged, and then they have the face of a human. These creatures guard city and palace and temple gates in the ancient world. They're famously used in Assyria and can be sculpted of great height, 15 feet high, not quite as high as the imaginative one in the previous video clip. Now, what's interesting in the texts of 2nd Isaiah is that these prophetic poems describe God as far transcending the powers of any sort of protective statuary, as scary and amazing as these Lamassu are. God is outside of history and in fact knows where it's going and can step in and direct it. Use instruments such as Cyrus. Now these Lamassu don't know, according to 2nd Isaiah, anything about where history might go. And they would be shocked to think that a figure like Cyrus of Persia would be coming, and even without the Babylonians being able to defend themselves, just to easily breeze into Babylonia and take the city. According to 2nd Isaiah, Yahweh knows where history's going and in fact has called Cyrus well beyond the powers of any mythological forces within the earthly realm, the immanent realm, to figure that out. All right, let's move back behind these Lamassu and look at the Balewat gates and continue our discussion of the transcendence of God. This little video now, I think, will try to explore three themes of 2nd Isaiah. God beyond history. We'll say a little bit more about that in connection with these Balewat gates. And then the theme of God behind sublimity, behind sublime beauty. God as a potter. And then thirdly, the third theme I want to explore is Yahweh, the God of 2nd Isaiah, as the God behind fecundity, and all the richness that these images of abundant flowing water and new life sprouting up, how they function and how they work in the text of 2nd Isaiah. Enjoy. Okay, these are the Balawat gates. Well, rather, the replica in the British Museum of the Balawat gates from the little town of Balawat, not too far from Nimrod, Kalhu, the great Assyrian capital. And God, according to Isaiah 45, is able to give Cyrus an open door. All of the traditional defenses of the world, like these Balawat gates from an earlier period, these are mid-9th century, much earlier than the rise of Cyrus. But Isaiah 45 makes reference to these bronze and iron gates. And here we have a gate with strong bronze bars and all of these scenes of fortifications and military power that mean nothing to God, because God transcends history and is able to give Cyrus free push through any sort of military gate like this. Let's take a look at a few scenes from these bronze strips on the Balawat gates. In the first scene, we have Shalmaneser III in the mid-9th century in his chariot with Assyrian archers accompanying him into battle. Forces like this mean nothing to Yahweh. God is beyond history and can push through forces like that. A second bronze panel depicts Assyrian forces attacking and besieging a city. Again, God is much more powerful than human military forces, and Cyrus will be able to overcome and effortlessly enter into Babylon without even having to do a siege like this. And third, as a third image, we have an inscription on the bronze the bronze coatings on the Balawat gates of Assyrian soldiers with booty, capturing spoils from a captured town and lugging them away. God is going to give all such booties and treasures, the treasures of darkness, Isaiah 45 says, to Cyrus, because Cyrus is God's chosen, God's anointed, even though Cyrus does not know it.
This is what the Lord says to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I take hold of, to subdue nations before him, and to strip kings of their armor, to open doors before him, so that gates will not be shut. I will go before you and will level the mountains. I will break down gates of bronze and cut through bars of iron. I will give you hidden treasures, riches stored in secret places, so that you may know that I am the Lord, the God of Israel, who summons you by name. For the sake of Jacob, my servant, of Israel, my chosen, I summon you by name, and bestow on you a title of honor, though you do not acknowledge me. I am the Lord, and there is no other. Apart from me there is no God. I will strengthen you, though you have not acknowledged me, so that from the rising of the sun to the place of its setting, people may know there is none besides me. I am the Lord, and there is no other. I form the light and create darkness. I bring prosperity and create disaster. I, the Lord, do all these things. You heavens above, rain down my righteousness. Let the clouds shower it down. Let the earth open wide. Let salvation spring up. Let righteousness flourish with it. I, the Lord, have created it. Woe to those who quarrel with their Maker, those who are nothing but potsherds among the potsherds on the ground. Does the clay say to the potter, "What are you making?" Does your work say, "The potter has no hands"? Woe to the one who says to a father, "What have you begotten?" Or to a mother, "What have you brought to birth?"
To the temple of the ram-headed Egyptian deity Khnum at Esna, located about 35 miles south of Luxor. This is a pretty cool temple. It's a little bit late in Egyptian history, but very nice to have right here on the facade this imagery of the ram-headed god Khnum at his potter's wheel, fashioning a human being out of the clay. Isaiah 45 has gone from talking about God using Cyrus in history to these images of God as a potter, like Khnum, forming humanity. But I think our text takes that image of God and not only usurps Khnum's place, but also makes some important theological points. One of the things that Israel wrestles with in this announcement that Cyrus is a messianic deliverer is that it causes dissonance, disruption, and a lot of stress and perhaps anger and frustration. This image of the potter in 2nd Isaiah is something of an answer to the theodicy problems of divine justice and working in such mysterious ways. Because a potter creates a thing of beauty
out of an unformed mass of clay, and that twists and bends and warps us and maybe even makes us want to lash out. But
in many ways, a potter, like a good lover, creates the unexpected, the surprising, the challenging, that which causes us to wrestle and seek more illumination and to probe deeper. That is what it means that God's transcendence is sublime and that God is a great artist. In some ways, there's a very good lesson about the problem of pain and suffering and injustice here, because as Otto noticed, the apprehension of beauty breaks open cracks in our discomforting and stressful world and gives us a larger vision and a larger wonder and a certain peace at God's power and stepping out of our need to control everything and allowing God the potter to work with us as clay, and to realize sometimes that's going to, if the wheel throws part of us out of joint, that's going to be a little painful, but in the potter's masterful hands, even though the clay doesn't know where it's going, it is certainly going in a direction of beauty and a direction of fulfillment of the divine plan.
for our third 2nd Isaiah theme, Mesmerizing Fecundity, let us enter through the famed Ishtar Gate into Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar's Babylon, the Babylon of the exile. Babylon, the capital city of the empire in which the 2nd Isaiah scriptures were written. And let's proceed to the famed Hanging Gardens, a perfect place to discuss fecundity.
Hey friends, our final scene in this video on 2nd Isaiah takes us here to the capital of Neo-Babylonia, to Babylon, and to this reconstruction of the famed Hanging Gardens. Now, many of the exiles to Babylonia were settled in unpopulated or sparsely populated parts of the city of the empire to start up agriculture in those areas. But those that were drafted into armed service or into labor programs could visit the capital, could have been spending time here. And those like Daniel and his friends who were taken into service in the royal bureaucracy could have served in the capital as well. So some of this would have been familiar. These Hanging Gardens are a reconstruction. We haven't discovered them in ancient Babylon, but we know from earlier Assyrian Hanging Gardens that in the ancient Near East, a garden on a mountain or an artificial mound like this one was common, and that gardens were often associated with temples and indeed with Eden, the Garden of Eden. So there's a clear ancient Near Eastern connection between beautiful gardens and a return to paradise, a return to God's blessing, salvation, deliverance, spiritual enrichment. Now, Isaiah, and particularly 2nd Isaiah, are really going to run with this theme of fecundity as not merely nature in full glory and bloom, but also heavily laden with thoughts of spirituality, closeness to God, return to Eden, blessing and deliverance. This theme is very easy to illustrate, and it's clear in 2nd Isaiah in this passage in chapter 45 that we've been reading. The theme is crystal clear.
You heavens above, rain down my righteousness. Let the clouds shower it down. Let the earth open wide. Let salvation spring up. Let righteousness flourish with it. I, the Lord, have created it.
Moshe Berger's prayer with this artwork is that God would open up his heavenly treasure house of rain and blessing to us. This fresco mural of a peacock is associated with a Roman household shrine called a lararium. Across cultures, many understand the peacock as a symbol of highly spiritual fecundity. Ancient Greeks understood the peafowl's flesh never to decay. Early Christians looked at the eye shapes on the tail feathers and associated it with the presence of God in Eden. Indeed, peacocks are often painted in Eden scenes. Note the pomegranate tree behind the peacock's breast and the pomegranate fruit in its beak, a symbol of fertility, with the pomegranate's many little seeds symbolizing great multiplication and fecundity. I'm reminded here of the primal blessing in the priestly Torah source, where again and again God's promise and command is to be fruitful and multiply. 2nd Isaiah draws on the priestly Torah and emphasizes this theme of fecundity. Be fruitful and multiply, the primal blessing, as having tremendous spiritual ramifications. This theme of the dreadful spirituality of fecundity is beautifully illustrated in this scene from a coffin of Nespar Shepi, a chief scribe of the god Ammon in ancient Egypt in the 10th century BCE. As precipitation, rain, falls down from heaven from the sky goddess Nut, it returns not again before watering the earth, before fertilizing the mummified body of Osiris, bringing forth growth, causing seedlings to spring, resonating with a deep structure of resurrection hope germinating in 2nd Isaiah.
Within the Isaiah corpus, perhaps Isaiah 26:19. Isaiah 26:19 represents the culmination of this fecundity spirituality within the Isaiah corpus. Praying to God, the community of the priestly Torah here says, "Oh God, your dew is a radiant dew. Your dew is a radiant dew. And the earth will give birth to those spirits long dead." This has been a rather longish video on these three key themes in 2nd Isaiah. We've visited 3 or 4 different locales to explore some of the imagery of 2nd Isaiah. Even though it's been a bit on the long side, 20 minutes or so, I still hope you've found our journey into 2nd Isaiah to be engaging and a lot of fun. I know I have. Thanks for watching and listening.
Bad flamingo.